Not worth a darn writing today. Everything I've written, I've made a mistake, so I gave it up. It has been very hot here today, and we could use some of that rain we had a few days ago. Tuesday night was when I was taking Maxine home. We saw 2 UFOs and something different this time. She lives close to a big hill, and we were driving out this street, and I noticed something through the trees before us. I told Maxine there was something unusual tree level on the hill over from us, so we stopped in the street, and there it was. It was not round like a star. It was round like a star and orange in color at times, and at times it looked red. It moved southeast, then moved back, and would be for a little while, then it would change color and get bigger. While watching it, suddenly there was this very odd colored blue light that flashed 3 times at us. Then it disappeared, and then again it showed up in another place and did that repeatedly for several times, each time like a signal flash. Finally, it moved southward again, then went directly north, the fastest thing I have ever seen in the sky. When the blue object left, the red light disappeared dimly out of our sight. I've seen green lights, but not the blue light or any light that color. I don't have sense enough to flash my car. I didn't have sense enough to flash my car lights. I guess you think later what you should have done. We watched them for at least 15 minutes and got out of the car to make sure that it was not a reflection. It seems that the thing won't stay away from Point Pleasant. I didn't write anything about it this time, although people want to know all over our reading area why I don't have something every day. I guess they think I can create something. Well, I think I will get drunk. A guy just bought me a 5th that I won on a bet. I have one in the drawer that hasn't been opened. I told Maxine, guess we would have to have a party. We'll keep you posted on the sighting. Sincerely, Mary. And that is the last, I don't know if it's the last letter she sent him, but it's the last one he has in his files. So you got Mary Hyres talking to John Keel. Now, these are newspaper people, and they're taking these events very seriously, or seem to be.
Right.
Now, we know John Keel is, but partially that's because of the Men in Black. Because you've got these guys with these suits with weird metallic sheens visiting anybody who said they've seen a UFO or seen the Mothman, and doing their level best to intimidate them and keep them from telling what they've seen.
Right.
And they're terrifying people. So you've got all of that going on. You've got people terrified from the UFOs, terrified from the Mothman, terrified from the Men in Black. And then to add to it all, there's Woody Derenberger and Indrid Cold. Woody, his full name was actually Woodrow Derenberg. Typical Appalachian man. He was a salesman for a sewing machine company. He lived near Mineral Wells, West Virginia. On Wednesday, November 2nd, 1966, about 7:30 p.m., while he was returning from Marietta, Ohio to his home, he was driving in his red panel truck on Route 77 in Parkersburg, West Virginia. He claimed that he saw a flying metallic cigar-shaped craft. The ship traveled right by his truck and blocked the roadway ahead and gradually made him slow down to a stop on the side of the road. Woodrow also described the vehicle as resembling a kerosene lamp chimney. The aircraft was hovering about 12 inches off the ground. A door opened in the craft and a being exited the ship, and the door shuts with a loud thunk behind the man. Later, the vehicle climbed about 50 feet in the air above the highway. The being walked up to Derenberger's truck window. Derenberger described him as looking like an ordinary man off the street, 6 feet tall, about 35 years of age, olive complexion, dark brown hair, and wearing a glossy metallic dark blue coat. The man spoke to Woodrow telepathically. His mouth did not move. Instead, he had a fixed smile on his face. The man looked in the through the truck's window and said, without saying, something along the lines of, "Roll down the window, I want to talk to you." During their communication, the man called himself Indrid Cold. He told Woodrow that he meant him no harm. In the famous Derenberger interview, he said, "I was very frightened, and as far as I can understand, this was all mental. There were not spoken words from him. I knew what he was asking me, but yet he stood there, and his mouth did not move. He had a smile on his face. He appeared to be very courteous and friendly." They had a conversation that lasted about 10 minutes, which is about 9 minutes longer than any conversation I'd have with a guy that stepped out of a UFO in the middle of the road that gave me a telepathic message to open my window.
Absolutely.
I would do it and say, go away.
Mm-hmm.
You scare me. You are creepy.
Absolutely. I wouldn't do that or say that because that sounds like something I could get killed for. So I'd just be like, hey, what's up?
Indrid Cold and Mr. Derenberger's conversation lasted about 10 minutes. Cold told him, we eat, we breathe, we sleep, we bleed, even as you do. Before returning to his flying craft, he said, we will see you again. After the interview aired, an older man claimed that he too saw a figure matching the description of Indrid Cold on Route 77 trying to flag him down, but he was afraid to stop. Derenberger's conversation with Cold could be corroborated. Other people claimed to see lights and fluttering vehicles at the same instant on the road. There were several witnesses reported seeing Woodrow Derenberger stopped on the highway talking to this man, and some even saw the flying craft parked on the road. Reports poured in of the strange lights in the sky and these beings all at the same time at the same place on Highway 77 that night of November 2nd, 1966. So, if Woody Derenberger was crazy, out of his mind, and all of this was imagined, what are these people seeing? I have no idea. Now, John Keefe talked with Woodrow Derenberger and conducted his own interview and investigation. Gray Barker, a science fiction writer from Braxton, West Virginia, also talked with Woodrow. Over the course of the month that followed, Derenberger claimed he was visited by Indrid Cold many times, and that he even took him on his spaceship to his planet. Indrid Cold would also appear at Woodrow's front door. His wife and children even knew that Indrid Cold was paying him visits, and they even eventually came forward and said they too saw Indrid Cold and other strange beings. Woodrow's wife was terrified and stated these beings were much like us, traveled in everyday cars, dressed in everyday clothes, but were obviously not human in origin. There's even one time where Mr. Derenberger disappeared for 6 months and said he was with Indrid Cold. This is what members of his family actually believed. He would also receive mental messages from his long-distance friend. They would come suddenly and leave him with piercing migraine headaches. His residents would often receive strange, unknown phone calls. Sometimes there were threats to stop speaking about his experience. Other times they were odd beeps and electronic hums. Sometimes it was just silence. The family changed their number into an unlisted one, but somehow these calls continued. His story gained such media attention that the locals would flock to his house all hours of the day and night and wait in crowds in his driveway to catch a glimpse of his friend Indrid Cold. On one occasion, 2 men armed with loaded rifles were hiding in the woods by Derenberger's property. They observed a black Volkswagen enter the front yard. A peculiar man dressed in all black suit with tan skin exited and talked with Woodrow before leaving. The hunters were disappointed. They waited even longer, wanting to see something truly terrifying, but maybe they already had. Woodrow hadn't heard of the men in black, but after this visit, he was extremely frightened by them. Derenberger eventually decided to seek medical attention and the opinion of a Parkersburg psychiatrist. He not only leaves with a clean bill of health and absolutely no evidence of chemical imbalance or disruption, but this very doctor endures a reaction soon after their meeting. He's contacted in December by a most peculiar man who's calling himself Indrid Cold. He doesn't call the doctor by phone, but does it telepathically. Over the next several months, nearly 100 people report sightings of Indrid Cold. So you've got Indrid Cold, which, is he a leader of the Men in Black? Is he something else entirely? I don't know. But those are the events from the first appearance of the Mothman, as some men were digging a grave in a cemetery, all the way to the collapse of the Silver River Bridge. That is the events between 1966 and 67 in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. That's the timeline. That's what happened. That's what people were seeing. So, the question I have to ask is, After hearing all of this, what are your thoughts?
Brain hurt. Ow.
It sounds like there was just a lot going on in the area.
I mean, nobody would take that much in that time, like, not just that little time.
Yeah, if it's 18 months of hoaxing, right?
Well, I don't know that I think there's a difference between. You have to go back and look at like a mass hysteria kind of situation. So I think that, and I know that that's what we didn't really go into in this episode is all of the different things that people think, right? So we talked, you did really good on going through all of we didn't talk a lot about the different viewpoints on what people think it could be. And I know that one of the things that a lot of people think is they cite mass hysteria. So you have one person, you had the initial people at the graveyard, and then you had the two couples from the TNT area, and then, things just kind of skyrocketed, and as those stories grow and grow, and then everything ends up with this terrible tragedy, then we start putting things together and finding the reasons. And, I don't think it's a mass hysteria personally, but I can see where people make that assumption.
Okay, but
I like I said, I don't personally think it is, but I can see where people come to that.
And the whole time I was digging this up, I left that explanation out because literally this is the shotgun blast. We are coming at this from so many different angles.
Right.
So, okay, your argument is it's mass hysteria.
No.
Well, Mary Hyre and John Keel. They didn't contribute to it. They're just reporters. And they're sharing stories about UFOs that are being seen everywhere. Many of the witnesses that Mary interviews personally and can vouch for their intelligence and the fact that they're not the sort of people to make things up.
And that's, I think that's
And then you've got Woody Derenberger and Indrid Cold. And that's a separate thing, but it's still connected time-wise.
Well, and we as a group make known that we have an open point of view, and I'm not poo-pooing on the Mothman by any stretch of the imagination, or anyone who saw anything that they say they saw. I'm just saying a lot of things happened in a small area in a span of a couple of years, and it makes it really hard to pinpoint where it started and where it actually ended. It just is strange. That's where I end with it. It's just strange.
Krysta, your thoughts?
For all the things going on, no, I don't believe that it would, that anyone would pretend to do these things in this time frame. And I don't see why they do that anyway. Due to the fact that, there's already enough people who, I think this is going on like this, and they actually pretend to do something, and it doesn't end up being what they say they think it's supposed to be. But I don't think with all this stuff that would go on, I don't think that they're making it up anyway, because with the time frame that all of this is in, yeah, I don't get any lies from any of them.
Well, yeah, okay. My